What's a good word, everyone? It's your boy DKB here. I just want to say thanks for all the support. The channel's been steadily growing, and the number you see below, you can drop a text, shoot a voicemail, any ideas, topics, collabs, etc. you guys want to see. I'll include them in future videos and live streams, and I'll catch you again. Be easy. What's the good word, Jets fans? It's your boy DKB here. We have a former superstar that wants to return home to the New York Jets in former safety Jamal Adams. And this is the first time that we've actually heard from him address comments about wanting to return back to the Jets, even as recently as this offseason. But I think there's a little bit more connective tissue now, at the very least, with Aaron Glenn in the building. And so some people laugh off the idea. I don't think you could completely write it off, but in the same vein, I think it's a bit of a far-fetched idea that we'll see him here. But let's go ahead and dive into it a bit. Right now, he was a former 6th overall pick for us in the 2017 NFL draft. And he ended up having a tumultuous reason for leaving, right? He wanted an extension, played at an extremely high level his first 3 years with us, and then things just went south, leaving Joe Douglas no choice but to trade him. Obviously, we got the crazy haul back when you talk about multiple first-round picks and such, players added in, all that good stuff. But ultimately, we didn't do much with our draft haul, and for the Seahawks, they never quite got the same caliber of player that the Jets had during his tenure, right? Which was a safety that actually had pretty strong coverage. I wouldn't quite call him an eraser, but he did offer some decent matchups when it came to tight ends, and especially running backs out of the backfield, where he was known for blowing guys up and being able to really force the issue and cause a lot of havoc as the enforcer on the back end for us. So I used to absolutely love the guy. I didn't love the way he went about leaving New York, but in the same token, I understand it, especially for some of these positions like safety, where the shelf life is even shorter than the average span for other positions, and you want to try to capitalize on what has been consistently elite levels of production, right? Now, this translates to an interesting point when it comes to like Sauce Gardner and his contract negotiations, for example, right? But when you look at Jamal Adams, he just doesn't fit what Aaron Glenn is recently looking to accomplish. I mean, you talk about us releasing Greg Zerline, you talk about us releasing Thomas Morstead, all of the other veterans and such that we chose not to bring back. And we're currently in the midst of a youth movement. So with him being 30 years old, again, doesn't fit the current identity and the way that Aaron Glenn has looked to build the roster. But talent is talent. And I think you've seen Jamal Adams fall off now. And of course, with him hitting 30, he's kind of been on the downtrend for a couple of years now. But the biggest piece that I think would bring questions or cause for concern to anybody is the fact that he hasn't been able to stay healthy. He played 1 game in 2022. He played 9 games in 2023. He played 5 games in 2024. And that brings us to our overlap where he played for Aaron Glenn for 2 games or so. And this isn't the first time they've actually had a connection before, which was news to me as well. But here's a quote that he had to say in regard to Aaron Glenn, and then, of course, what it would mean to return back to the team. So he says, AG actually was my guy for my pro day. He ran my pro day back at LSU when he was with the Saints. He was the DB coach. From that point, we always had mutual respect. Haven't really, through the years, been able to talk to him because of him obviously being with the Saints and me being in New York or Seattle. But when I did get the call to go to Detroit, I was super excited, man. I always wanted to be coached by him. He's a legend and on the wall in the Jets facility. I used to see that all the time, and I knew he was a ball player. He goes on to say, I would be lying to you if I sat here and told you I didn't want to return home to the Jets. I'm not talking about Dallas. I'm talking about New York. I would love to be back with the Jets and obviously finish it the right way. That would be a dream come true. And this was recorded on, I believe it's called The Lounge or the Jets Lounge podcast. And he goes into further depth about what actually happened when it led up to his tenure leaving. And he's actually taken a ton of accountability for his part in negotiating his way out of New Jersey. But well, all of that aside, right, if you're just basing this off of talent and you're basing this off of what you could possibly get in return, this isn't like a Chuck Clark situation, right? You're talking about him coming off an Iron Man streak. He's coming from an elite organization with the Ravens. He's a veteran, so there's going to be a ton of experience that he can try to impart into the remaining young guys we're trying to groom up, this, you can really default and just say Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilks, Dre Bly, all of these guys should be able to go in and have a upper hand when it comes to speaking to the secondary, right? Just based on pro careers, based on backgrounds, based on experience coaching the secondary. Adding in a veteran guy helps add to that equation, of course, but it's not really the general boom in the same way that you'd expect on a normal coaching staff that's led by guys that generally haven't played or haven't played at a high level or just never made it to the league, but they've been coaching for a while, right? So not to discredit anybody or anything, but that's just kind of the thought process in terms of not needing a veteran in the room here, which would be the selling point for Jamal Adams. And you're going to miss out on the coverage that you would have had when he was much younger. He's also not going to be able to keep up that enforcer role, which in part has led to him not being able to stay on the field for a while. So I would love, to, of course, see him back in green and white because he was one of my favorites for a long time. You guys know I love me some secondary guys, but it just doesn't fit. And so you don't want to have to force the issue. And yeah, you could bring out the argument, and I think Robbie Sabo actually pinpointed this pretty well during his X Factor article, but he highlighted something like more people would probably be open if you talk about him taking the veterans minimum, which I want to say is just shy of like $1 million or something along those lines. And it's a 1-year deal, right? Maybe no guarantees or anything. If you earn a spot, great. If not, no harm, no foul. Even then, I would say, is it worth that happening as opposed to just looking to, steal somebody from a practice squad, or maybe there's a cut, waiver wire pickups, maybe there's a UDFA that falls into your lap somewhere, a tryout guy that you still are kind of intrigued by, but you've been holding out on. I would prefer to go any of those other routes at this point in time, but maybe somehow, some way he can find our way back into our good graces via a different pathway. But it just feels like his playing career is kind of getting wrapped up now. Once you talk about him not being able to stay healthy consistently enough, that's going to close a ton of doors for you in the NFL. So overall, that's just kind of my thought process for it. Let me know what you guys think. Is there any way that you'd be fine with Jamal Adams at least getting a shot to try to make the roster in 2025? And I'll catch you guys again. Peace.